easier, and not necessarily the non-traveling and this, that, and the third. It's clubs, no clubs. Usually these guys are out till 3 o'clock in the morning the night before games. Trust me, I've been out at clubs in Los Angeles, and you see guys literally turning up at the club the night before they have a game. James Harden's over there in Houston turning up at the strip club right before the game. And they don't have that thing of like being tired then the next day for the game or whatever. A lot of these guys bring it upon themselves. They're out partying and doing this, that, and the third, especially when they're on the road and stuff like that, when they're going to different cities and they link up with some of their friends in these cities. Every time they come to either the LA teams out here, everybody's partying, you know. So certain cities, people just go and they turn up regardless of if they have a game the next day or not. And I think that honestly is like the biggest break that they had, because they didn't have nothing to do but go back to the room and go to sleep. Because you guys don't necessarily, like, yes, the traveling is a thing, but you guys also did have that extra day of rest normally that you guys didn't have in the bubble. So normally during a regular season, if you guys are traveling and doing the 2nd and 3rd, you guys have more time to rest, and you guys had more time in between games and stuff. And this situation was like every single game or every other day you were having a game. Like we all remember when Jamal Murray was like, wait, we have a game on Thursday? Like he was like, I need to rest. I need to sit down. And he didn't even get that opportunity to do that. So, and to Dave's point, love you, Dave, favorite player, but you went out of the bubble in the first round. So like you didn't have necessarily the same experience as these other guys did that were playing like Jamal Murray day in and day out, like every other day you were playing. You only did that. And you did the whole first round either because you got injured. So you only played in like those 10 games that happened prior to you guys going into the playoffs, and then you played in like 2 playoff games. So I mean, yeah, it was probably a lot easier for you because you went home earlier, and those games were even more spread out than they were when they got into the playoffs. I think the playoff situation was probably a lot harder on guys because they were playing every other day, but the regular games, of course, that seems a lot easier because you aren't traveling and you also don't have anywhere to turn up at.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point, Britt. And also, you guys, so I know that we were experiencing some glitchiness with YouTube earlier. So I do want to take a moment. Jackie, I'm going to skip my question for you about Dame's bubble update because I want to make sure we discuss this LeBron stuff again. So sorry, it's repeating for ourselves, but it's new for everybody tuning in. So LeBron just agreed to a 2-year, $85 million max contract extension with the Lakers. That's something worth celebrating for me and Jackie. Rich Paul told The Athletic this news. LeBron's contract runs through 2023, which is the year that Bronny is going to graduate from high school, and he could have the option to enter the NBA draft, but that's if they change the high school to pro rule, which, you know, may or may not happen. But we've always heard that LeBron wants to play in the league at the same time as Bronny. So Jackie, initial reactions, tell me your thoughts. I know you have a theory about what LeBron really wants to do with Bronny in the league, so let's just get into that really quickly.
Yeah, so my first initial thoughts, again, was I don't have to buy new gear because that's the thing. I have Miami, Cavs, Lakers, and it's possible I'll have one more team because I know we talked about this a second ago, but you guys missed it, that the theory is that LeBron wants to play against Bronny. I think that's the absolute wrong theory. I think that he's been very vocal about the fact that he would love to play with his son. So I think that either there's a way that he figures out a way to bring Bronny to the Lakers, or somebody else is going to pick up the last year of his contract and he's going to go somewhere else and I'll have to buy some more gear. But I do think it's his goal as a dad to see kind of the fruits of his labor right next to the fruits of his labor and all the training and stuff that that's gone into him making Bronny who he is. I think he wants to be side by side with that, not up against it, because either way he's going to be older and he's not going to be on the floor as much as we're seeing him now. We're going to continue to see his minutes on the floor kind of dwindle off. So he'll be able to bark out orders from the sideline, which I think is what he's going to want to do. It would be weird to see him do that while he's on another team. Like, why are you coaching him and he's not on your team? That would be weird. So I think he's definitely going to end up on the same team with Bronny.
Helping out the competition. Yeah, that wouldn't be the best look.
That'd be so weird.
Right? It wouldn't be right. So, Britt, what do you think about this news? Do you have a reaction to LeBron signing this contract extension? And do you think it's actually going to be possible for LeBron to play with or against, even though Jackie doesn't think that's going to happen, with or against Bronny by 2023?
No, I don't think they'll ever play. If he continues, obviously, to be in the league after that point, I think that they could possibly play with or against each other, but I don't think there's anything that's going to change with the one and done rule that's currently in the system for the NBA and NCAA. But we do know that the G League is now an option for these kids to go to straight out of high school. They can spend a year in the G League. So if Bronny went to play with the Defenders for like a year, which would be LeBron's last contract year with the Lakers, I see that as being like a situation where they can still, be like in the same kind of realm with each other, and LeBron can support him and help him out with his game. And I don't think Bronny would honestly want to play with his dad, because I could just see like the perfection that LeBron is, and like him wanting like his son to like do everything perfect, and Bronny's like annoyed. He's like, Dad, I'm not you yet. I can't do this, like give me some time. Like I'm 18 years old, my guy, So I think Bronny would like not want to play with his dad as much as LeBron would probably want to play with Bronny. So I think that's probably going to be like a little like thing, I mean, we all, have parents, whatever. And it's like, you just think of that moment of like, you're doing what you're supposed to do, and your mom's like, picture, da-da-da, and she's like behind the mirror, like telling you what someone's doing. You're like, Mom, I'm grown, leave me alone, And I just see that kind of energy being the situation there. And we know that Austin Rivers and Doc Rivers' situation wasn't like the greatest, and Austin couldn't kind of wait at the end to get out of there and head to Houston, so he wasn't like under his dad's shadow, because everybody was like, oh, he's only this and that because of his dad, and yada yada. And I don't want the same energy to be put onto Bronny.
It's funny
my
that
mom
you bring
still does that
up.
to me.
Me too.
Every time she sees me on FaceTime, she'd be like, are you gaining weight? What are you doing? Like, it's like, Mom, I gotta go. This is why I don't FaceTime you, Mom. This is why.
My favorite is when my mom messages me and says, your lip color is not working on camera today. Like, okay, Mom, I get it. She was a news reporter too, so she's like, has her own very strong opinions about all on-camera stuff. But it's all, they do it with love. Let's get into this second news update. This is all about Britt's team, the Clippers, but it's not good news, and I'm really excited to hear what you guys think about this. So Kawhi Leonard required some pre-game privacy that apparently caused easiness among the Clippers players in the locker room. The team's training staff would create an entire private space for Kawhi to do his pre-game routine prior to every Clippers game. He also often would occupy the female staffers' locker room during road games and sometimes during doubleheaders in the Staples Center last season. Several players and staffers were reportedly knowledgeable about the situation, which ultimately caused uneasiness within the team. A lot of people around the league felt that the Clippers had no choice but to give in to Kawhi's demands, and it had eventually translated to the team's dynamics and performance on the court. It kind of disrupted the culture that they had worked to build. So, Britt, I have to ask you first, does any of this matter? Kawhi is the superstar of the team. He, I think should expect special treatment. So do you think that it's justified for his teammates to feel uneasy about all of this? Did they go too far with the preferential treatment?
You guys know, I always say the Jimmy Johnson, like, if you're a star, you just get to be different. You just get to be that guy. And frankly, that's Kawhi Leonard. So if you want to be getting what Kawhi can get, then, well, be Kawhi, do better, work harder, be like Kawhi, like that's just simple and easy to me. I'm just like, I feel like players need to, and maybe sometimes forget that they have their role. And obviously the Clippers had a year last season when they didn't have any stars on the team, especially after Tobias Harris left. And they were just like, a bunch of guys gritting it out together and trying to figure it out, and still was able to make it to the playoffs and, take the Warriors to a game 6 in that situation. So I think going a year without having any stars, like the team literally was rebuilt in less than a year. Like by the beginning of the season, all the guys that were there, like Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan and JJ Redick and Chris Paul, all those guys left very shortly after. And then like mid-season, and then you have that rest of the season from 2018, and then you go to the very next year and you have no stars on the team, but possibly Tobias Harris, who then leaves again mid-season. So it's just like these guys like were not used to even having anybody get anything because they didn't have any stars on the team. They were all like the same kind of like level playing field, but that's not the case anymore. Like the Clippers fought really hard. Like, I mean, Kawhi was the hottest ticket on the market last season during free agency, and everybody was trying to get him, including the Lakers, including the Raptors and stuff like that again. And, you know, the Clippers had to make some, you know, figure it out if they wanted to get the guy. And so they got the guy. And we also need to understand Kawhi, after his dad was murdered, he, you know, kind of became a little more of like a recluse and was like inside and even quieter than I mean, what he was before, because I remember him at San Diego State. Like, I remember seeing him at pool parties and stuff like that early on in his career and stuff like that. And just the difference in, you know, just watching your dad get murdered. And then last year with this stuff, there were new things with the charges and figuring everything out this in 2019. So he's been going through a lot, and he's kind of like socially awkward and uncomfortable sometimes in situations. So whatever that man needs to be great on a football field, basketball court, then that's what he needs to do. Like, and I know other guys that like, you know, have played sports and had, you know, they have moments where they go off and like, I have to have 30 minutes by myself before whatever. George Hill said in the playoffs, they asked why he wasn't out there during the national anthem. And he said, well, I have to take my crap before every game. I got to take a crap. So I was taking my crap still, and I missed the national anthem. That everybody has their different little things that they have to do, and they all are granted like opportunities to do those little things, whether it's like, oh, this guy has to get a massage right before every game, or this guy has to do that. And so that's what Kawhi has to do, and that's what makes him play great, and that's what he's going to be given.
Right. And I agree with you. I think that if a superstar is making these, you know, specific requirements, but it enables them to play the best and be the best that they can be, the teammates and, you know, the franchise as a whole should understand that. A lot of people in the chat, though, seem to disagree with us. Somebody said there's a limit to preferential treatments. Someone else said Kawhi is plain and simple a drama queen. So, Jackie, I want to ask you, do teams need to have a mentality where they understand they have a superstar who can take them to a victory, or do you think that they have a right to be upset about all of this?
I think as soon as the preferential treatment becomes detrimental to the team, then it's a problem. And I think that because we've heard about this so much, I'm positive. I actually have known people that say LeBron has a locker room ritual. We've never really heard about it in the media because nobody really cares. But LeBron also brings his teammates in. We've seen the things that he does to kind of cultivate this chemistry between his teammates to make sure everybody feels included. He gives credit sometimes where credit is not due. We've seen how he talks about Kyle Kuzma and, oh, he's going to be the third best player on the team. No, he's not. But he continually does these things to try to make people feel included. So I think when you, as a player, and trust me, as a basketball player who was not the star on the team, it was not a big deal for me not to be, I was the enforcer. I loved my job. But part of the reason for that is because the star on the team made me feel like I was an asset. I didn't feel like she was getting extra treatment for whatever, even though she did. You know, she got to do a lot of stuff we didn't get to do, and if we tried it, it would be a problem. But it didn't bother us because she included us so much. And I think if he did the same, I think if, first of all, this whole you living in San Diego thing and being late to practices and leaving, that's a thing for people because time is money. And the second you're late, you're starting to waste people's time. I've always said that. Do not be late because all of a sudden you wasted my time, which means you wasted my money. And now I have a problem. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Barack Obama. Don't be late. Not on my dime, you know? So once you start having those kinds of things, then it becomes a problem. I'm with Britt. If you got to stay in and do your number 2, if you got to get a massage before, if you got to get your nails done before, and you're the man on this team, do that. But at the same time, you need to find a way to make your teammates feel included and not like they're less than. And if you can't find that balance, then I, as a coach, am going to have to step in and help you find that balance. But you definitely need to find that balance.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Really that though, because there's been tons of things. Everyone's like, Kawhi leads the group chat. He's the one that's always like, everybody's stuff and encouraging stuff. Like Lou Will said that earlier in the season, this last year, that like Kawhi's literally the number one guy that's like, hey guys, let's plan something, let's do something. He was the one that got the team workouts, just the player workouts started with no coaches and stuff. So I think Kawhi does that. I think this is Trez. Now that he's with the Lakers, coming out and spreading
oh, God. There it is.
Quiet now. You're not on our team anymore, okay? Leave it alone.
That's actually a great point, Britt, because I feel like we do hear these two different sides of Kawhi. We hear that he's so funny, he's, the one pumping up everybody else, and then you also hear these things that he's a diva and he's late and he's canceling practices and he has the freedom to do that. But I wonder if it's a Kawhi problem or if it's like a bitter surrounding roster problem. We may never know, but it just seems like we keep getting these two different perspectives.
We'll know, because if we don't hear these stories about Kawhi now, if all of a sudden it's rainbows and sunshine, then Britt's right. This is a Trez problem, and now we can just let it be. But but if we continue to hear these stories, then we'll have to circle back and be like, okay, there might be a Kawhi problem. But no, Britt's right. If we don't hear about this anymore, then Trez just needs to say less. It don't have nothing to do with him anymore. Be a great Laker.
Yes. And don't cause problems on the Lakers, please. Like, that's not what
that's not gonna happen. Because Kawhi's not vocal. LeBron, and that's the thing. Kawhi's never going to be a vocal leader, and that's one of the things I've always thought he needed. He's going to be the lead by example guy. He's going to go out there, like Britt said, like, let's work out, let's do this. He's the lead by example guy. But sometimes you need a vocal leader. So LeBron happens to be both. Trez better not. Trez will be on the first thing moving.
All right, you guys. Well, let's wrap up Need to Know News. Jackie, can you take us into the post-up?
Yes, let's get it. I'm glad you guys are in the chat, because we're going to have a bunch of questions for you guys today, because we got a lot going on, and it's time for post-up quarantine edition. Now, look, I hate messy people. I know that we talk a lot about messy people, so that probably seems weird for me to say that, but I'm not a fan of messy people. Especially when you have a child looking on to your messiness and the world can see your messiness. I think it's just embarrassing. I know you guys have all heard the story of how the Timberwolves guard, Malik Beasley, who is married, let that sink in for a second. He's married, but then this picture started circling around of him and Scottie Pippen's ex-wife holding hands. Now, apparently this was the first time his wife heard about it as well, which is, their relationship is already weird, because I don't know, I'm sure you guys do know, but he was charged with felony threats of violence and 5th-degree drug possession, and his IG model wife was charged with the drug possession as well, because they had like a pound of weed in their house or something like that. I know a lot of people are. I'm not tripping on the weed. I feel like they were probably about to have some crazy party where no one was going to be wearing masks anyway, and that's why they had all this weed in the house. It's the violence that kind of bothers me, because that's always going to be troubling to me. But like I said, this is when she found out that her man was dipping with Larissa Pippen, who seems to dip with everybody. She's always just going to dip through the NBA. And I think at some point you just need to retire from dipping through the NBA. There should be a statute of limitation on hoeing out in the NBA. That's just me. Clearly I'm wrong, because Larissa's like, I'm going to live this life forever. And that's just weird to me. I don't even know how they met. Like, how did they even meet? Anyway, I digress. This whole thing is crazy to me, like I said.
Probably
but on top of that,
Woods.
Say that again?
Probably through Jordan Woods. They're both the outcasts.
But I feel like there should be a statute of limitations on hoeing out. I could be wrong, but I just think there should be. At least you should. You gonna be in a walker?
You gotta hoe for life. You good? Some people just do it. Men do it. Men do it. Shoot.
That's true. That's true. It's probably easier to drop it like it's hot when you got a walker too, because you got something to hold on to. And then Britt, we talked about them knees. When you got that walker, you can pop it up. So maybe this is a forever thing for her. But Malik is only 4 years older than her son, Scottie Pippen Jr. So this is where I have a real problem. Like, you just hoeing out and your son sees this and he has to take to Twitter to say, focus on myself and my goals. I'm not responsible for nobody's actions. All good over here. That's embarrassing to me when your son sees all the attention you get. You know, people are tagging him and stuff like, look at your mama, look at your mama. Obviously, the sympathy came pouring in. I like this first one. It said, Dear Scottie Pippen Jr., if you are reading this, stay focused. Kid, don't worry about social media. I know that's your mama, but you got to control what you can control. And then this next one says, thank God Scottie Pippen Jr. don't got to play in front of fans because they would be dragging him right now. We probably would. That's unfortunate. And then this one says, Scottie Pippen Jr. does not deserve this. And I know Scottie Pippen Jr. is exhausted. He is probably definitely exhausted with dealing with everything that's going on. I don't know what to say. Devin, I know that you dabble in the messy occasionally. First of all, let's talk about his mama. How does his mama walk up to her 20-year-old son and say, hey, meet my 24-year-old boyfriend who happens to be married? Like, how do you make that make sense?
You don't make it make sense. That's what happens. I mean, I just think Larsa's always going to want to push the limits. She's always going to want to find her way into the tabloid headlines, whether she's claiming that she was dating Tristan Thompson when KAWHI met him, or Kanye West called her and, left her nasty voicemails. Like, Larsa is doing the most to always make sure that she's in people's heads, which is so weird. And it sucks because the person who is, being hit the hardest from this is Scottie Pippen Jr. I actually feel really bad for him. I looked at all of those tweets that he liked, and it's unfortunate for him because he must feel uncomfortable with it, knowing that his mom's dating life is so public, and the fact that she is dating somebody who's married and 4 years older than him, like, just uncomfortable. I don't like that. I feel bad for him.
Yeah, I feel bad for him too. But Britt, I want to ask you, because you made a good point earlier when you said men do it all the time. Men will hoe until they cannot breathe anymore. And we've also seen men date women that are way younger than them. And as a society, we don't seem to trip about that. So are we just tripping because we have these gender roles like, oh, she's a woman, she shouldn't be acting like this? Or is this a valid thing for her to be doing this?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's exactly what it is, because there are tons of retired NBA players that are literally dating women that are like younger than their actual kids are. Like, and that's facts. Like, there's literally things you can pull up and see, and Shaq does it all the time. There are tons of athletes that do it all the time, and nobody even flinches because, oh, guys, old guy. Like, how is it not creepy that an old creepy man is talking to a little child girl? Like, how is that not creepy?
Right.
Like, and we don't say anything about it. But we don't say, like, as a society, it's okay. That's okay. But because this is a woman dating a younger man, it's like, oh, so taboo. And so, like, everybody, like, went crazy on J-Lo and on Mariah Carey when they were talking to younger guys. Right. But then they can talk to an old guy and nobody says anything about it. It's just, like, weird in that aspect. Obviously, it's terrible because he is married and this, that, and the third. So that part of the situation is terrible. But as far as, like, the age being, like, this crazy thing, I mean, it happens all the time and nobody says anything when it's, like, the other gender that's doing it. So I'm not even going to say anything about that because I think that that's crazy. But, and I mean, Scottie Pippen Jr., I'm sure his dad dated younger people too. I don't know. So I don't know. Right. I think he's going to be okay. Honestly, LeBron's mama dated one of his teammates and LeBron still turned out all right. So Scottie Pippen Jr. will be all right.
I think Scottie Pippen Sr., though, he's loving this because he knows whoever he dates right now, she could be just barely legal. Ain't nobody going to say anything because they're going to be like, well, at least it ain't.
Running OnlyFans, like have her naked body on OnlyFans every day, and no one's going to be like, well,
no one's going to say anything. Yeah, so hey, shouts out to Scotty. All right, so let's get into this next one because, Brett, I'm going to come back to you on this one as well because I know this is your favorite basketball player, but I personally love the dynamic between CJ and Dame Dollar. CJ knows how Dame is. Actually, let me rephrase that. We all know how Dame is when he's pissed off. His level of play just goes up. He's the type of person that I would send flowers to right before I started playing him because every time he's mad, it's a problem. But NBA Central posted the ESPN projected standings, and you guys can see it right there. A fun fact, Trailblazers are nowhere on that list. And CJ wanted to make sure that Damian Lillard saw that. He said, just wanted to make sure you see this, Dame Lillard. Now, I went through the tweets. I didn't see any response from Dame, which is also a problem because, you know, he's sitting somewhere and he's festering with that. And then, of course, the fans agree. Some of them do, some of them don't. We have a couple of those tweets. This first one says, y'all need a play-in tournament bailout to even make the playoffs. Ja Morant and G Leagues had a better record than you. That's a stretch. That's a stretch because I bet this person don't even know any G League teams or what their records are. So that's a stretch. But let's go to this next one. It says, I mean, other than the Pelicans, what team on that list do you put the Blazers ahead of? Tired of hearing about these Blazers. Same story every year. Make the playoffs and play no D and fizzle out like clockwork. Technically, if you're saying the Pelicans, they only have to beat out one team. I don't know if you know how the math works, but if you put them ahead of the Pelicans, then that's done deal. I don't really understand what that is, but these two seem to agree that Dame is going to use this as energy to make it happen. So this one says, sure, Pelicans and Rockets over y'all. No thanks. Y'all are going to wreak havoc on these fools, and we all know Dame gonna be waving bye to all of them. And I think y'all made the WCF the Western Conference Finals last time you were picked to miss the playoffs before the season started. So, Britt, I gotta come to you. Are these last two users right? Is Dame gonna use this as energy and be waving bye to all these people?
Well, the number one thing he is using this for, which is why he didn't respond to CJ yet, is I guarantee you he's making a rap about it right now. He's already in the studio putting a record out about this situation, and we're going to hear it's going to be some more good music from Dame Dollar. So that's the most thing I'm excited for. But I said this from, the beginning, the last couple of weeks, last month or so. This season is going to be a very level playing field for a lot of teams, which I'm so excited to see. I don't have predictions right now as who I think is going to be the eight coming out of the East and West, because this season is going to be crazy. There's a lot of players that are coming back from injuries. There were some switch ups with, there weren't tons of big name switch ups, but there were a lot of those. Like I told you guys, we had 8 or 9 free agents from the Clippers, like alone. And those are those guys that off bench guys or whatever that are switched up. And that makes a huge difference with teams. People's benches make huge differences between a team being a number 1 seed and a number 5 seed or whatever the case is. So I think there's going to be a lot to see. Obviously, everybody's going to be excited to see what the Suns are going to do. And right now they have them at the 8th seed, and I think they could probably be a lot higher now that they have Chris Paul in the mix. I don't know. I think this season's going to be super crazy. It's going to be super interesting. We're also, excited and confused to see what's going to happen with the Warriors because Klay's gone, but they did get some good pickups. Steph's going to be back fully healthy and stuff like that. So I think there's going to be a ton of teams, and I don't know where they would land in that situation. And so I think everybody's going to come for it. I mean, Dame always does regardless, so I'm not worried about him getting a certain type of way just because of this, but I am excited to hear his new song.
That's music.
That I'm
I concur. I concur. All right, so speaking of landing spots, you guys know that Russell Westbrook and James Harden, neither of them have a landing spot yet. They're still stuck in Houston limbo, but you wouldn't know it checking out Russ's story because he's out here living his best life, jamming out to Mary J. Blige, talking about I'm going to be just fine, and he's singing along with it. We can't play the whole thing, but I just want you to pick up the whole mood that is Russell Westbrook. First of all, look, he was singing that whole song off key, but I was with him the whole time. Because he just chilling. I love Russ so much because he literally is his authentic self. He's a great father. He's happy, and then he's mean sometimes on the court, and he's a beast on the court. So I love Russ. I just had to throw that mood in there, and maybe we'll have a karaoke segment later, and Britt can sing y'all the rest of this song. But training camp began for most teams yesterday. Kawhi's out here getting his training camp look on. He got a new ponytail. Y'all see it now. I don't know if y'all noticed yesterday in that promo video. He's starting his locks. His locks are actually looking pretty good, and he got them pulled back in a ponytail. I'm okay with this ponytail. I got to get Britt up again. How you feel about ponytail Kawhi?
Yes, I love the man bun.
Okay.
Yes, Kawhi.
Okay, good.
Let's do it. But I'm really nervous about this dread look because we know how Kawhi don't be taking care of that head. So wear a do-rag at nighttime. Keep those things smooth and nice and unfrizzy looking, please. My God.
Yes.
But love the bun look. Love the bun look.
Speaking of things he doesn't take care of, I would like to also recommend this. This is called chapstick. You can pick this up at your local 99-cent store, Kawhi. You got time because you're always late, so go invest.
Pre-game rituals. That's not part of his pre-game rituals.
It needs to be.
He didn't even ask for chapstick, y'all. He didn't even ask for chapstick or a cone.
Get you a cocoa butter stick and just this area right here. Something. Oh, okay. So speaking of this first game of training camp, or first day of training camp, Larry Nance had to walk it back very, very quickly. I thought this was hilarious because he posted his little workout and he was like, this has Christmas music over it, and it's that happy, like the weather outside, like he's happy and excited. And he posted a tweet that says, "So excited to be back, strengthening and conditioning." He said this is the most excited he's been in his life. But he quickly walked that back, and he's not even doing like full-on suicides. Our coach used to make me run full-on suicides when we came back, and then he says, "I lied. The conditioning was not fun." No, it is not, sir. That's the only reason I played 3 different sports, and it wasn't because I really wanted to. I only liked 2 of them, but it was to stay in shape because that first, and this girl admitted it. She said that she feels his pain. And she understands the pain that he's going through because she said that her high school coach used to tell her, I don't know if I have that tweet, but she used to tell her, you need to play more than one sport because otherwise when you come back, you're going to be hurting. She did not. He was hurting. She said the same thing. She said, conditioning is always the worst. My high school coach used to try to get us to play a spring sport just so it wasn't like 8 months off. And she never did. And she paid the price. So yeah, you out there paying the price, and good for you. Don't play that Christmas music over them suicides no more. And he was jogging. I see you in the chat say he was jogging. He was jogging because that was the end of that workout. He was dying at that point, and that's his own fault. Next time, train in the off season. I'm going to get this next one up here right away because I don't have a lot to say about it except for I'm going to get you guys' opinion. I'm going to tell y'all what Twitter said. But in my opinion, KD is lying. I don't have anything else to say. Leo, roll the clip.
I don't know where you're making these stories up that me and James talked about any of this at a workout. Like, I don't know where that came from. And James is a friend of mine, but I let the front office handle all of that stuff. I was just so focused on working out. I heard all the noise, and I heard that, James potentially wanted to come to the nest, but anybody can make up stories. Anybody can write a story, and it gets some traction. So.
Speaking of making up stories, KD just made up one, and when he said he don't know nothing about James Harden coming, that man is lying. Let's just see what Twitter said. I'm not gonna.
He ain't trying to get in trouble, girl. He can't get in trouble. When can admit that?
It's just funny. He could have just said no comment because when is KD ever just focusing on working out? When is he ever just sitting there like, I'm just focusing on working out? No, KD, we're always looking at your Twitter messages. Always looking at the drama. Like, this is one guy that we know is not focused on playing
basketball. He just was a big troll for a long time because he wasn't playing no basketball. He back playing basketball. So he ain't worried about that. But he is lying, but because he ain't allowed to tell the truth. Okay?
So he could have said no.
You just can't tell the truth.
Because LeBron was asked something similar about the AD situation, and LeBron said, I think the kid's amazingly talented. We'll see what the front office gets done. Boom. You don't try to make the reporter and the media seem like they crazy and they don't know what they talking about. We know. Stop. Liar, pants on fire.
Well, they should have asked him that question. They know he can't answer that question. Don't be asking that man that question. He's been in the league too long. He knows. He didn't even trap himself up. He didn't even tell Russell Westbrook when he was leaving to go to the Warriors. That's true. He ain't going to say nothing about this situation. His lips are sealed.
They're not that sealed. He's trying to make the media seem like they're crazy. They should have been more sealed. They're not that sealed. But let's see what Twitter had to say about it.
Petty.
Some people He says, I find it ironic that athletes fully understand how the media/journalism works when it's involving them, but involving other societal aspects, they push the false, misleading stories, makes you question what's fair, what their handlers and why they're pushing it. So I'm just saying, KD, I kind of agree with this. You need to learn how to use the media a little bit better. You could have been like, y'all know he could have said that, Britt. Y'all know I can't talk about that. If I say that, y'all gonna say I'm tampering. Magic Johnson said that on several shows. They were like, so what do you think? He'd be like, y'all gonna say I'm tampering. I don't have nothing to say.
But Magic Johnson had to leave his job because he was always tampering and he didn't know how to be quiet about it. Yes.
But I'm saying he could have said, y'all ain't gonna get me caught up. Don't make us seem like we're lying. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's get on to this next
keep doing Kevin Durant. Making a surprise.
Yes, and update those burner accounts, because Britt's right. You've been slipping as of late. Now it's back to basketball. You got to update them burner accounts because we know the old ones. You need new ones. But you guys, I've said it several times. I don't think always, a lot of the times, but not every time does college talent translate into the pros. And Tyreek Hill was one of them. He did not think after their first day in training camp that Patrick Mahomes was all that. I want you to take a look at this video. It's super cute.
I thought it was trash. I ain't gonna count. I ain't even gonna count, man. When he first got there, I was like, "They who y'all drafted right here? They who y'all drafted? Hey, y'all."
What? I just have to come to the ladies. What kind of first day training camp could Patrick Mahomes have had where you think he's trash? I need answers. It just doesn't seem possible. What kind of first day jitters did he have?
I mean, I think Alex Smith, I believe, was the quarterback at the time there, if I'm not mistaken. So I feel like they just probably had that energy of like, oh, we already got a quarterback, because I mean, Patrick Mahomes barely made it in like the top 10, which is still great, but like he didn't go into this situation like supposed to be like this #1 overall pick, and then just being in the system, I think, and a new system around new people, and like first day jitters. Like I could see how he could probably be trash, because I think it took him a minute to even come to his own, like once he started playing. Like, so I could see how that could happen for sure, especially like now you're like this 22-year-old kid and you're with like a bunch of like grown men. Like he's probably and how Patrick Mahomes is like just trying to be this nice guy, like, hey guys, how's it going? I'm Patrick Mahomes, and everyone's like, man, get out of here. Like, I don't know you, kid. Like, I don't know. I can see it. I can see it.
Well, you guys should go check that video out, because it's kind of funny, because he's very glad he was wrong. Go check out that video. He talks about that their chemistry is just great now, and he's really happy that he was wrong. The funniest part of that whole video, though, is the housekeeper in the back who gets like stuck like a deer in headlights when she sees he's on the camera. So go watch the video. It's a lot of fun. That's all I got for Post Up. We're going to get into what we not going to do. This is going to be an interesting one because we've talked about this one several times, and I'm glad to see that we've made some progress. You guys know, starting from last March, things kind of bad for us. We were in the on again, off again lockdown. We had a whole bunch of social unrest. And it was in March that the United States women's national soccer team, they started their fight for equality. And we were there for them. Megan Rapinoe, she kind of led the charge, and she's been such a voice, not only for the equality for herself and her fellow teammates, but for everyone in the world. And I think, at least myself, and everyone I know just fell in love with her and how hard she pushes for that. But the lawsuit that they filed against the United States Soccer Federation said that they were not only not paid equally, but they didn't receive the same accommodations as the men. Before I dive into this story, though, let me just say this, because I know a lot of people often make the mistake of comparing the situation to the WNBA. This is not that. The WNBA is totally different. It's very much reliant on the NBA. It doesn't have the viewership or the revenue that the NBA does have to even start having conversations about those salaries being equal. So just first and foremost, if you have that thought, just go ahead and toss that out of your head, because it's not right. Because the only people most of us know as far as soccer is the women's team. It's because they're champions, they play more games, they're more visible, they obviously bring in more revenue. So obviously this is not the same situation. These women should absolutely be paid the same amount as the men. Technically, I would argue more because they're so successful in what they're doing and their championships. They're champion winners. So, and consistently. So, like I said, they filed this lawsuit, and they've made some progress with this lawsuit. Both parties have filed a proposed settlement in the Federation pledges to implement policies specifically related to their hotel accommodations, staffing, travel, venues, things of that nature. They're basically saying, hey, we're not going to put you in a roach motel anymore. We're going to make sure that your accommodations, as far as when you're traveling and things of that nature, are going to be equal to the men. The fact that we had to file a lawsuit to say that, now I'll say that on both sides of the fence. Y'all can't give me, there's nice Motel 6s in the world. You don't even have to put me in the grimy one that's got roaches in it. The fact that they had to file a lawsuit for this is crazy. And if you guys remember, there's a male judge named Gary Klossner who he decided that their quest for equal pay wasn't adequate. It wasn't right. Because he said it's not discrimination under the Equal Pay Act because they play more games and then therefore made more money than the men's team. Yes, they made more money, but let me break this down in layman's terms so y'all can understand. This is like if you go to work and your coworker makes $10 more an hour than you do, but you consistently work an extra 10 hours a week, so you get paid time and a half for those 10 hours. Yes, now you're making more than that person, but that person only has to work 40 hours to make what you have to work double for it. That's not fair and equal. And the fact that a man got it in his head to say, oh yeah, y'all working more, so y'all make more, so no, it's fair. That just shows you where we're coming from in our quest for equality, especially when it comes to equal pay between men and women. But the U.S. soccer president, Cindy Parlow-Cone, she says that if they provided equal pay to the women, it would bankrupt the organization. She says that they want to try to get the contract the same so that the men and women will be making the same contractually. However, she says that she's requesting that the Federation, FIFA, make up the prize money, which is like $66 million. That's the vast majority of the suit. So she wants FIFA to come in and pay them this money instead of them paying them this money. She said, quote, "My goal is and has always been to come to a resolution on all equal pay matters and inspire a new era of collaboration, partnership, and trust between the United States women's national team and the Federation." So, I mean, I believe her to a certain extent because she is a female, and I'm hoping that she wants to push this forward. And I don't care who she has to call. If she has to call FIFA, if she has to take out a loan, or what she has to do, if she has to set up a payment plan where these ladies are going to get paid for the rest of their lives, their kids might get paid for the rest of their lives. I don't care what she needs to do, but you need to make sure that these women are paid evenly, and they should get this back pay. I don't care what the judge says. So Britt, I know, is very, very passionate about this. We've been following this for a long, long time. So Britt, I want to come to you because is this kind of a kick in the face that they could get this done first? Like, okay, hey, you want equality? We're going to make sure that your lodging is equal. The money is still going to take us more time. Is this a slap in the face, or is this a step in the right direction?
Yes, it's a slap in the face. This is crazy. This, honestly, the original suit was filed in March of 2019, and then they had to the judge came in and made different stipulations, and then they had to redo stuff and all of this, that, and the third. And in March of 2019, they hadn't even won the next World Series or next World Cup that they won that year. And to be very clear, the men don't do anything. I don't understand why FIFA has anything to do with the men's and women's. I get FIFA's logic because FIFA basically does stuff off of their pay. So if you or their viewership, the men's FIFA World Cup, yes, as a whole gets way more views than the women's FIFA World Cup. As far as the teams are paid, that is part of the United States Federation league. Like, that is part of what they need to take care of and how they pay their players, not FIFA. FIFA has, okay, the women's, yes, is a smaller amount of money for winning and than the men's is. But I get that because the viewership for the men's World Cup is way higher than it is for the women's. So that does make sense to me. The men had theirs in 2018 last, women had theirs in 2019. And I get that the men get more views than the women do for FIFA. So that's why their payout when the women win is less. But then the money that is now given to the United States Federation, they literally are looking at it and like, okay, well, out of this winning money that we're getting, we're going to give the men this much and give the women this much of it. And it's not even equal. It's a less for the women. And to be fair, the men don't win. The last time the men even placed third place in the World Cup was in 1930. 1930 is the last time the men got in third place. They literally, from after 1950, they didn't even go to the World Cup until 1990. They have been obscenely terrible. The last couple years that they've even had an opportunity to go, which is very few and far between, they lose in the very first round. They haven't done anything. They have literally not done anything. The women, on the other hand, if you want to talk about FIFA, they've won 4 of 8. So because obviously we know women's soccer started a lot later than men's did, but the women, there have been 8 FIFA World Cups. The women's team have won 4 of those. For gold medals, well, the men's Olympic team doesn't even get to go ever to the Olympic Games for soccer, but the women's team, out of the 6 times that they could have possibly ever won, because there's only been 6 Olympic Games that have had women's soccer, the United States women's team has won 4 of those. So literally they're taking the money that they're getting from their gold medals and from the FIFA, and then they're splitting it out between the men's and the women's team, but yet the men don't even go, or do they win at all when they do go? They'll get knocked out in the first round. So as far as American TV is concerned, with, the games are usually broadcasted on Fox Sports, we're watching women's soccer for the USA team because we don't have a men's soccer team that makes it to be on TV to watch any games anyway. So the viewership dollars that are coming in for Fox Sports that then go to the Federation and stuff like that, that is all women's money. So the women, I get why they're so upset, because it's their money. The men are not bringing in any money for soccer, any jerseys that are sold. When's the last time you bought a men's soccer team jersey, like for the national team? Never, because they don't even make it. Everybody in America, when I see they have jerseys from Brazil and all these other, in Spain and all these other teams, nobody got no USA men's jersey. Like, the women did their whole national little tour thing that I went to last year after they won the World Cup and, played all these games and stuff. Those things were like sold out. Like, they are bringing in so much money, but yet all the money that they're bringing in is having to be not even split with the men. And all the women are asking for is equal, even though technically that's all their money that they're bringing in. They're better than me, because I would have been like, they didn't do nothing. How are you gonna, get a credit, get an A+ on my project? Like, you didn't put anything in on this project. You didn't do anything for this project. You don't deserve an A. And that's literally what the men are doing. They're honestly taking an A, and then the person that did all the work, which is the females, they're getting an F on the project. Like, it makes no sense. It's so disgusting. Honestly, I can't even, there's only been 2 teams that have ever even been ranked first place for women's according to FIFA, and it is Germany and USA. USA has currently been ranked first place since 2017, I believe. The men highest ranking they ever had was in 2006, and they're currently ranked 22nd. Like, they're just terrible. Mm-hmm. Like, I just don't understand this. It doesn't make any sense. They do not bring money in. And to your point, Jackie, you are absolutely right. It has nothing to do with WNBA and NBA, because the WNBA does not bring in the money that the NBA brings in. Like, this is totally different. Like, and soccer is a sport where, yes, men and women can both play it. And yes, I get on the FIFA aspect of it, the men get paid more when they win the whole thing because they get more viewership. I get that. But as far as what the U.S. Federation is paying these men and these women is ridiculous, because all that money that's coming in is the women's money. Like, none of it technically should go to the men, but the women aren't even asking. They're just asking, well, can we just have half of our money, please? It's just crazy to me. It makes me so sick. And
people forget that soccer, I get that it's not as popular here in the States, but this is a worldwide thing. People love soccer throughout the world, so it's definitely popular. So you really can't compare the views. Yeah, you can't compare the views for the WNBA to a worldwide organization. It's a little bit different. So it's not the same comparison, number one. But I will say this, we saw, and not every NBA player did this, but we did see a lot. We saw Kyrie and I forget who else, a couple other players say, hey, let's donate some money to the WNBA, you know, so that we can at least get their salaries elevated a little bit. I have not heard peep one from the men that says, you don't even have to say, hey, I want to volunteer some of my salary. Why can't you just say, hey, we think that these women should be paid fairly? Where is the support from their male counterparts? We haven't seen it at all. And I think that's what's most troubling to me.
Takers. Yes, they're takers,
right,
because they know that it ain't their money to begin with. And they know at some point, some judge is going to get smart enough to realize this and say, okay, men's soccer, you actually aren't getting any money because you don't bring anything in. And they know that day is coming because they know that taking that money is literally is theft right now. It's robbery. It's like insane.
Right.
They make enough money, honestly, on their club teams. Like these men's basketball or men's soccer players, we have LA Galaxy, all these other teams. In LA, we also have the Los Angeles Football Club. Like we have teams that are making a lot of money for the men as far as like club teams. Make your money on your club team, but don't be over here stealing the national team money from the women. Like that just is, it's.
Yes. So what we're not going to do is be out here and pretend like equality should be this hard. This is a double team. Me and Britt had to tag team y'all on this, what we not going to do. So I don't know where the
we did a mix of what we not going to do and our takes. We make takes and, rock hand. Okay, here we go.
I don't know what that
I was here in the chat. I was here in the chat supporting everything that you guys said. I didn't get to talk about it. I was writing into the chat. I agree with you guys. The women's soccer team needs to get their money. It shouldn't be an argument. Okay, now Jackie, handing it over to you.
We're done. We got the what we not gonna do. Britt's tag team. Yes, what we not gonna do is keep. Yeah,
tag team.
I get it. Okay, so we're done. We're done with the show.
You see that? Yeah, you see that men's soccer? You see what happens when people join together? It works. Stand up for these ladies, y'all. I don't like it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Boom.
All right, well then on that note, on that mic dropping moment, you guys, we're going to wrap up our show. So subscribe to our channel, tap the bell for notifications, give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment below. We're going to be back again at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Wash those damn hands, wear a damn mask, be a good person, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Pay these women. Pay them, give them money.
Make us come for you.